Hi, welcome to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast with your host, Trent M. Clark, three-time World Series coach, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, having started 12 companies, coach to the 1%, and an international speaker. This show is going to be your go-to podcast for facing adversity, being inspired, and overcoming obstacles, all from the best in the world, business, sports, and leadership. Hate the crappy ingredients in many beverages and energy drinks? Rebellious Infusions are the go-to functional beverage. They have 5 or fewer plant-based organic ingredients, no sugar, no calories, loaded with antioxidants to boost your immune system, and L-theanine for brain health. Rebellious Infusions are available at drinkrebellious.com. Rethink your drink. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999.
Hi, it's Trent Clark, CEO of Leadership, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, longtime coach, professional baseball coach, 3 World Series, and I am super excited to join you for Ask Me Anything. It is Friday, and thank goodness I am ready for the weekend and excited about it. I have 3 great questions. Today, probably one comes off a couple times. It came up this week, and one was off the show. Winners Find a Way this week, which I featured Natasha Miller, and we talked maybe a little bit about in that show where events come up in our lifetimes and it is challenging. I mean, significant events as kids that change our lives forever. That can be the death of someone in the family. It can be injury. It could be financial ruin. I mean, all sorts of different real trials and tribulations come up in our lives. And it is stated like this life will not be easy. That is for sure. So with that, what's the premise behind getting that right and learning from that? And I think that's the big one. I mean, I think that a lot of challenges in that, like, is it a bad thing? Yeah, hey, it's bad. Like when I think about bad times in people's lives, I always ask them to revisit those times. I ask them specifically not to relive it. Those times came and they're back there in that past, and let's revisit those times to learn from it and not to relive it. And one of the big things for me when we're looking at hard times is how do we benefit? How do we learn from that? What can we get and drive off as a go forward? Well, there's tons of great things. In my Fun Story Friday, I talked today about breaking my leg as a kid, which I thought was the worst thing ever, right? It slowed my progress to making the basketball team and all sorts of different things. I can think of probably 50 negative things that happened because I broke my leg playing football. But I can also look at how that attributed to 50 great things in my life that I learned from that experience that I benefited. Had that not happened, I would not have learned some things. And so I think there's some real things that we learn from our trials. And if we get good at looking into both the good and the bad, it's massively effective. I have a CEO friend in Edmonton, Alberta, named Allison Hodson. And Allison is the CEO of Zag, a marketing firm. And she has an uncanny ability to learn from all those challenges in her life. But she's also had an uncanny ability to learn from the good things in her life. Like I consider her like a sponge learner, and she learns each and every time she goes out. And so some of the best athletes in the world, they go out and they learn from the great experiences, they learn from the bad experiences, they learn from any experience. And the really good learners not only learn from their own, but they learn from your experiences, and they tune in and watch and learn how other people garner that value and learn from that. So huge. So when we think about those events that shape us as kids, they're not all bad at all. I don't want people to think negatively. It is an event that happened, doesn't have to define who you are, who you're not. And so I think that's really critical, but it does change us, and hopefully it changes us for a way in the better. And we look for those ways. It encourages us, makes us positive. We get gratitude from what we learn. The second question, we are in the Great Recession. I'm having a hard time following employees, and I'm looking for, what are you looking for in your employees? So one of the acronyms we teach, and they ask this question like, hey, explain the card, right? I talk a lot about having aces, and I want aces on my team. And I also want aces in my hand if I'm going to play cards. That's so important to me. And so the acronym is CARD, C-A-R-D. I'm looking for 1, coachability. That's a huge challenge right now that we're looking for in people today in the work environment. Are they coachable? Can we teach them, get them upskilled? Do they have an ability to adapt? Adaptability. That's huge when we're talking about having some skill sets to adapt to. Do they have an ability to see not only something that, hey, is not working, but also have the skill sets to adapt to what can work? Can they find the research out? Do they have the skill set? And then, of course, R is responsibility. Do they own their responsibility inside the organization, their roles and responsibilities for how they contribute? Do they take that responsibility of how they can best contribute to you and your organization really well? And do they take that responsibility for their teammates, for who they manage, for their boss, and how they show up at work? So there's a lot of things that come with responsibility. As I see people on any team that show a high level of coachability, show a high level of adaptability, and show a consistent level of responsibility and ownership, we prove that they have dependability because they do that time and time again. And so that acronym of CARD is coachability, adaptability, responsibility, and dependability. And there's some questions around that you can ask, but you can make up your own questions with your teams. Hey, how would I ask somebody if they have coachability? What experiences have they had with that? You can ask many. Adaptability, talk about the set of skills that they have, what they've had to describe a time where you had to change and do something different. Responsibility, like ask them about the things they feel most proud of, their biggest accomplishments. Who were they responsible for? Dive into open conversation around something they took ownership in the past, had to lead or run, even if it's with their youth group or whatever. It doesn't matter where it came from. It's a matter of, hey, have they taken responsibility in the past? Then, of course, dependability. You're usually going to get that probably from references. Do they say, hey, this person is someone you can depend on? I will put my name on the line to recommend this person because they will give you a contribution each and every time. They work hard, they have a good attitude, all those things. You are going to usually find that out from references. And I ask that sometimes of references, hey, would you consider this as a dependable? Do they operate as with dependability in all things for you each and every time in your organization? And while people can't say terrible things or bad things, and they tend to reserve, if you ask hard questions, they will answer yes and no, and ask some hard questions when you're doing checks on references. And yes, the references should give them, references are typically the people that usually shine for the person and say, oh, all the best things. And yeah, that's true. But oftentimes if they ask the truth, they don't want to lie about it and they don't want to be caught saying something. If they say no comment and they pass, just make note. Last question, and this is on the NIL world. The name, imaging, licensing has been around a long time. This is not new. There's a new level of personnel involved now with YouTube and all the things that are coming out with marketing, social media and Instagram and TikTok. There are a lot of influencers now that are now brazen in the market. And a big addition to that market is now college athletes who can be paid for their name, image, and likeness, which is one of the arguments of what happened when years ago, top Division I athletes in usually big money sports like football or basketball were put on, like jerseys were sold inside student bookstores and things like that. And they were also, images were used for video games and things like that in the NCAA. And so if someone has used that now, they have to pay that athlete for that. So that's somewhat of a new audience in that. Now, the question for me is, hey, I am a track and field athlete at a mid-market school, either a top like Division II program. In this case, they are a smaller Division I. And is there NIL for me here? Like, sure, there is definitely potential for that. The university has a lot of support of people around it, from boosters and restaurants and different companies that are going to serve the university. So from the perspective of how do I garner value from my image is like, hey, do you have a following in that market? Do people know who you are? People used to tell me this all the time in athletes. So it's all who you know to get ahead in athletics. And really, it's who knows you. How do they know me to be? Do they know me to be a card? Do they know me to be an ace? Coachability is high, adaptability is high, responsibility is very strong, and dependability each and every time. If they know that, people are willing to make reference, help you get role, all these good things that are available in your potential. Same thing for the NIL. Do they know you to be a reputable person? Do you have a message to say? Do people follow you? So if you're in the on a track and field team and you have 10,000 or so followers, that has a pretty significant, sizable following. And so if that's localized and your following is localized within the campus and the campus activity and restaurants and activities and social, that's going to have a huge impact on a local business. So there are opportunities and options for all different sorts of things, including different just sports that are using now. There's how many publications in the athletic world? Tons. And so there are lots of different opportunities that present itself along the way. So there's a thoughtful category. So you do not, quote unquote, do not need to be a Division I, large market, large money sport like just football or basketball to take advantage of NIL proceeds and make some money. There is a way to do it, and there's a lot of things out on the internet. You can find out more. Our organization does that in AIM, Athletes Influencer Marketing, and you can definitely find out more. So I would definitely say research that. Find out if you do not have the following, that will be your first challenge to overcome. Is if people aren't listening to your words right now, you don't have that following in place, that will be the stopper to get more opportunity. All the folks who are, as you are an influencer, need to see that you actually have some influence in the first place. So great questions this week. Thankful for them. For me, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadership. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Thankful I could be here. Had a fabulous day and also a great show on The Winners Find a Way this afternoon with Natasha Miller. So if you haven't checked that out, go to our YouTube channel, our Leadershipity YouTube channel. There's lots of great content. You can check it out there. Have a fabulous weekend. We'll see you next week.
Hate the crappy ingredients in many beverages and energy drinks? Rebellious Infusions are the go-to functional beverage. They have 5 or fewer plant-based organic ingredients, no sugar, no calories, loaded with antioxidants to boost your immune system, and L-theanine for brain health. Rebellious Infusions are available at drinkrebellious.com. Rethink your drink. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999. Thank you for listening to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast. Trent, together with the leaders who shared their learning and experiences through this show, are grateful for allowing them to help and support you on your journey to becoming your best. Write a review, rate us 5 stars, and share this episode to your network.